Hey there, athletes. Coach John Ferry back here with you tonight for the Week 9 athlete briefing for our Team Wilpers Half Marathon Challenge. Excited as always to be with you here on a Friday evening. So I hope everyone is having an awesome Week 8. Speaking of Week 8, we're going to do our Week 8 review. So Week 8, top to bottom, unload weeks. Easy runs, taking it nice and easy. I know this has confused a lot of people. So the biggest goal here, talked a little bit about it last week, so I want everyone to be healthy on race day. The number one thing that we want over the scope of this 10-week training block is not for people to necessarily run across the finish line. We do want that. That is the byproduct of being healthy at the starting line. So this is an opportunity, as we talked about, to make sure to work out all those niggles, get your rest right now. Why this week is not next week, 2 weeks out from the race. So we feel like the 2-week taper is just far too long for the half marathon distance, leave you feeling a little sluggish, disconnected from the race itself. So we want to do our drop down now, we want to honor it, and then we want to come back next week and we want to have one more big nice week so you feel fresh and connected before we do a 1-week taper in week 10. So my always reminder, go onto the website, check that box and get credit for doing the workout. I want to make sure we're still chasing 100% completion percentage. And if we're not chasing 100% completion percentage, we're chasing as close to 100% as possible. So we're going to want to look back in challenges in the future, compare to how we did here. I said, if I mentioned in the beginning, having that 100% completion percentage is certainly the best way to set yourself up for success. So you want to get as close as possible. So go on the website, check that box, get credit for doing that workout. It's now week 9. So run number 1, 45-minute endurance run with Striders. Don't need to talk about it. This is your new best friend in running, that 45-minute endurance run with Striders. Run number 2, 45-minute half marathon pace interval run. So this is going to be an awesome workout for the week ahead. Super relevant coming into the race weekend. Also super relevant for people with different race weekends. This is a workout that we want to be able to nail. So we have 5 minutes at half marathon pace, easy break, 10 minutes, easy break, 5 minutes. So overall 20 minutes of time at half marathon pace. So we've got a couple of goals here. For this challenge that concludes at the weekend of that 17th, 18th, this is going to be our final full-length strength workout. It's going to be our final full-length speed workout. So we'll touch on a little bit of speed in the taper week. It'll be a much shorter workout, but this is going to be our final full-length speed workout. It also, probably more importantly, this is going to give us our opportunity to practice a lot of time at race pace before our actual events coming up here in a couple weeks. So I know we talked last week about half marathon pace and how the pace listed just on your online portal might not actually be the pace that you plan to go out for your race itself. This workout in particular, you would get a great workout working out at that pace, but I actually think it's probably going to be more important and probably a smarter play at this point to pick the pace that you plan to run or that you are now considering running during this time. You're going to have an opportunity to do a couple things. You're going to have an opportunity to hold that pace for 20 minutes over the scope of the workout. Great thing to do a couple weeks out from the race. You're also going to have the opportunity to come in and out of that pace range a few times. So why is that important? Well, it's very important to be able to get the feel and know how to find that pace nice and quickly. You want to be able to settle into it rapidly. What that's going to help will help a few times, but most importantly, it can help right at the top of the race where people are known to get a little bit too excited, a little bit overzealous, and kind of overshoot their pace target right off the bat. So when you get that pace into your body and you start to know how to settle into it very quickly, it can really help prevent those kind of early race mistakes of going out too hard. Final key run of the week, long run, 10 to 12 miles. So as I've kind of alluded to, got everyone confused again. A lot of people were concerned about 10 to 12 mile workout the week ahead of the race. So the main reason we have this kind of last key long run here is we always only plan on a 1 week taper for the half marathon. kind of, as I mentioned before, I feel like the 2 weeks is just too long unless you have some sort of physical issue that you're trying to deal with leading into the race itself. Second, and I will continue to confuse people, the training effect window at the time of this workout is closed. So the workout itself is no longer, has no training impact on the race itself the following week. So why put this long workout there? It was very simple. This is what Matt and I would kind of call, and I checked back to our communications, called a confidence run. This is your opportunity to go out. The training window is closed, or the training effect window is closed. So there is no gold stars for going fast. It's you dial the pace back down. You keep it nice and light. You practice your nutrition that you plan on race day. You wear your race kit that you plan on race day. Make sure everything is feeling good. You don't have a sock that's rubbing here. You still have a little bit of opportunity to correct it. If you kind of put yourself in that situation, spend the time out there, but you want to kind of dial it back down and keep it nice and easy. So the goal is to walk away from this workout feeling confident in the distance, to feel confident in your body, and feel fully prepared in your race kit and nutrition strategy. And so you're just going to reverse and repeat that kind of morning and attire on the race day itself. So you just want to carbon copy between your final key long run day into your race day so that all the guesswork has been removed. So if you're a newer runner or less experienced with the distance, it's just fine to feel a little hesitant about going out and running 10 to 12 mile long run the week before the race. That is quite possibly the longest run you've ever run. What I would say to that is there's nothing wrong at all with just shortening it up a little bit. What is going to make you feel confident? Would 8 miles make you feel confident? Great. Would 6 miles make you feel confident? Great. As I mentioned, the training window is closed, so the actual distance itself is it's mostly irrelevant at that point. What we want is that opportunity for you to get out there, feel comfortable, feel confident, know that you can complete the distance, and have a really nice final session, final kind of long run session. That good final long run really sets up a solid race. So we want it to be successful. Feel free to modify, do whatever you need to set yourself up for success in that long run. Week 9 challenge, dress to impress. So as discussed, week 9 is our final dress rehearsal. So let us know how you execute your final big race prep run. We'll pick our favorite and send a little TW swag your way. Please make sure to tag @TeamWhoopers, @TeamWhoopersRunChallenge, and use hashtag #TeamWhoopers# to participate. So questions that have come up from the group here. So any specific training recommendations for filling in the gap after the program plus the extension for those of us with May race dates? So I'm trying to incorporate people who are finishing now and people who are finishing in April. This is kind of the way to bridge for other endurance events over the next couple months. So for the April and May crowd, what I really like about kind of what in essence we've done for especially people who have more races coming is you are in a really strong position at the end of this challenge. And the reason is that your volume is already at about 100% of what you need to get to. You're not trying to build anymore in terms of volume, so you get to focus on intensity. So I think many of us are very used to, kind of traditional training plans where you go, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is until you get to the volume. You call it 12 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, you build up, you finally run your race, and then probably 9 out of 10 people, go home and come back next spring. However, if you are able to sustain that, especially the half marathon distance, this is a pretty sustainable distance for a lot of athletes to be able to kind of just keep that long run distance up there, to kind of keep their weekly volume up there. So then you get to start working on pushing a little bit of intensity. So, we've got these 3 key variables in running. It's really all we get to work with. We have overall volume, we've got frequency, and we've got intensity. So if overall volume is pinned, and then frequency is pinned, and the amount of days per week you're working out, then you get to manipulate intensity. And we only like to try to manipulate one of these things simultaneously. Sometimes it's got to be two, hopefully never three, but that's your best chance of success. So if you've gotten to this 100% of your volume and you've got those things kind of dialed in there, then you get to push intensity a little bit because you don't have to worry about getting longer anymore. You're already at your max capacity. You can complete the distance, you just push it a bit more. So some of the things that you can incorporate are long runs with pace mile segments, including a little bit of either marathon pace or half marathon pace into your long runs. Because once again, you know that you can complete the distance. You don't have to worry about building up that endurance. You get to make it kind of a key workout. So you still usually pull out some of the intensity in the middle if you're going to do something like that. You still want those kind of two key intensity markers, but it's just one thing you can kind of do in that scenario. So if you're racing kind of either here in March, if you're racing in April and continuing on, you do need to take a little bit of a rest period before you jump right back into it. So these races are hard. They take their toll on your body. Depending upon your experience with racing, it could be a couple days, it could be a week, it could be as much as 2 weeks. Probably about somewhere between a couple days and a week for a half marathon. Take it off, not take it easy, take it off, come back in a few days later at minimum, kind of then take it easy. I like probably about a 10-day to 2-week ramp back up period of all easy running. And what you're trying to do is take your volume from where it was after the race back to your max volume, all easy. Once you get that volume back, you can start layering back in the intensity. But that's it, about a 10-day to 2-week ramp back to get that weekly volume back high, and then you jump back, kind of sustain that volume, jump back into intensity. Similar question. My half is until the end of April. I'm comfortable now with the distance. These next few weeks and the extension, do I try to increase my easy pace, try to push it closer to half marathon pace? So definitely not. We don't want to confuse easy and half marathon pace. Easy pace is what we do for long runs, easy efforts, etc. Half marathon pace is a workout pace designed for half marathon racing. However, as I was just kind of talking about, what you do have the ability as we go forward to do is incorporate pace segments into long runs. So half marathon pace in particular, the most that I tend to put in a workout somewhere probably about typically 4 miles, maybe 5 miles for a very advanced runner, half marathon pace in the middle of a long run. You can do a lot to maneuver that and break it up. You could do 2 by 2 mile segments with a break in between. You could do 4 miles straight with kind of a start and an easy finisher, 4 by 1, etc. So plenty of different ways to structure it, different kind of values on each of those things. But that's what I would kind of do instead of doing a run exclusively at half marathon pace, which is going to be too hard. If you did an entire long run at half marathon pace, that was a race. So you need to be thoughtful about when's easy, when are you practicing your pace, and not confuse the two. So what do you like to eat the night before a race, and what is the ideal dinner time to end? So excellent question, and I will very intentionally not tell you what I eat the night before. And the reason is that it doesn't matter for you, because the best thing you can do is to do the things that you are comfortable with and that you have been doing for the last many weeks of training. So if every single Friday night before a Saturday long run, you have had, a pile of pasta and 3 steaks, then although it's not traditional race wisdom to do so, I would encourage you to do the same thing if your body is used to it and getting positive results. I would not encourage anyone to do that outside of that. But the point being is you want to be as consistent as possible with what you have been doing the night before your long run. So what I don't like, and we see it all the time, is that people all of a sudden get a little bit panicked coming into their race weekend, start talking about and thinking about carb loading. So we were walking around with bagels, plates of pasta. But if you're a person who's eating a salad every single Friday night before your Saturday run, and you all of a sudden have a pound of pasta the night before, you got a big chance that you're gonna have some stomach issues first thing in the morning. So I would ignore the macronutritional advice that kind of traditional wisdom would say. I would focus on staying exactly with what you have been doing in your training, both in the evening and in the morning. And if it has been a disaster in your training, then just keep that disaster going straight through into your racing. The two little tidbits I'll throw in there is you certainly want to try to keep kind of a lighter meal if possible the evening before. Nothing that's going to be super heavy. Most people are getting up earlier than usual to get to these races, so it also ties into your dinner time. You probably a little bit earlier than usual if you're trying to get an early bedtime. You have to kind of fall back on your training. All of this always is falling back on your training of, are you a person, if you eat too early, do you wake up famished in the morning? Are you going to need a big breakfast to try to combat that hunger? If you eat too late at night, have you had negative experiences? Or are you someone who digests really quickly and you can turn around no problem that way? And I've seen athletes at all levels who have had issues and success with both. Finally, what I think the third key to this, other than try to be a little bit lighter the day before in terms of the meal, try to be a little bit earlier, is make sure, it's probably more important than anything, you wake up early enough on race day to allow yourself to go through a typical morning routine. It's going to be a little bit earlier, a little bit different, rushing out of the house, like wrapped in saran wrap for a lot of us going to these kind of early spring races. But make sure you have enough time to go through your whole morning process. Very critical. So in hindsight, stay consistent. No new variables in the 24, 48 hours going into the race. We want to repeat what we've done in training, good or bad at this point. This question was, I'd love your best tips for mental aspects of the race, either things to help over the next 2 weeks as we wrap up training and or during the actual race. It's my first half marathon. Would love to enjoy and just have fun. But I know the nerves will start to ramp up as it gets closer. So awesome. Well, congratulations in advance. It's going to be a blast. So first of all, some nerves are okay. That means that you picked something that challenges you and that you're excited about and it's important to you. So it's okay to have a little bit of nerves. I think that keep things really fresh and dialed in. So I'm a big fan of positive imagery. So I do not run with headphones. I don't run, obviously, listen to music, podcasts, etc. I am out there in my own world. So I have a lot of personal think time. So in that think time, there are a lot of things happen. But certainly what I try to do, and it might have kind of just happened by accident, is I do a lot of kind of imagery and hopefully positive imagery. Certainly imagine myself feeling strong at different parts of the race course. I like to familiarize with myself with the race course in advance if I can and kind of know what key points are. I've kind of visualized myself seeing friends on the course and looking kind of strong and comfortable in front of them. I can visualize myself crossing the finish line. It's actually bad luck to physically cross the finish line, just FYI if you're doing a little shakeout or what sort. But I like to visualize myself crossing the finish line and being successful in achieving my goals. So that's all great in training, but when you get into racing, it sure is easy for things to turn negative in a hurry. And it actually is why I think it's so important to have all those moments of training to fall back on, all those positive things that I've thought about. Because when things start to turn a little grim, when they start to get a little bit tough, I can kind of recall those training moments. I then can think about how well a workout went or how strong I was feeling at that time and how I imagined coming into the final mile, kind of with great posture and a smile on my face, waving at friends and family as I went by. So I love positive imagery. It does take practice. Especially the mental side. The mental part of the endurance sport world is huge. It takes a ton of practice. So it's never too early and it's never too late to kind of start implementing that. So positive imagery. Kind of think about things that are important to you. Kind of have them as a little bit of ammo when things get tough that you can think about and bring to the front of your mind. Mantras. So kind of just adding a layer onto it is possibly add a little bit of a mantra. Is there something? Is there a phrase? Is there a word that's important to you? Repeating that to yourself at certain points of the race can certainly be valuable. You can either whisper it or you kind of say it in your mind, or it's kind of a weird sport. You could probably say it as loud as you wanted to at plenty of points along the race course, and you're not going to get too many side eyes, especially late in the race. So if there's something that's very important to you, very meaningful to you, just saying it out loud or saying it to yourself over and over can certainly be helpful as well. And then finally, a little tip that kind of came to me actually in the middle of the race. I was running New York City Marathon one year, and I called this my notes here, my gratitude approach, which is I was feeling very tired. I was coming to the end of probably mile 18, 19 New York City Marathon, so I was coming back into Manhattan. So I had a little ways to go. And I started thinking about all the people who had made sacrifices to help me get to where I was that day and help me to be able to go out and achieve my own goals at their own personal cost. And it was my friends who were okay with me leaving a little bit early on Friday night to go home and get some rest for my long runs. It was my now wife who had been okay with me waking up at the crack of dawn on Saturday mornings and pushing off personal plans and holidays. It's been my family that have been supportive as I was half asleep during training days. But so many people had helped me get to that point that I kind of made a quick list in my head of how for each mile I would spend that mile thinking about the contributions that friend, family member, spouse, coworker had made so that I could be there on that day. And it carried me quite far. I finished quite emotional thinking about all the support I'd gotten along the way. And I think this is a sport that really requires it. Your friends make sacrifices, your family makes sacrifices because of the time and energy that goes into it. And then naturally you make sacrifices as well. So it's important to also be, kind of thoughtful and appreciative of yourself. You've certainly set aside the time, you've put a ton of effort into this, so it's okay to give yourself a pat on the back as well. Going back to that positive imagery of just think about all the stuff you've done, all the hard work that's gone from then until now. And the race day, hopefully is really a celebration of all that hard work kind of coming to manifest itself on a really fun and exciting day. So hopefully some of those little positive imagery tips and tricks, some of the gratitude things will help that mental edge coming into the final couple weeks and race day itself. Well, otherwise, that is all here for this athlete briefing. Thanks as always for being here. Can't wait to be back with you for the next one, our final week headed into race day. So have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time.